Hello, everyone. Today on the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome a true force of energy and creativity in the events industry, Kevern. Kat wears many hats. She is the founder and director of Electric Cat, a bold and vibrant B2B marketing agency working exclusively with event companies and suppliers to bring their brands to life. She's also the managing director of NAUI, the network of women in events, where she is championing representation, mentoring over 75 women through the Level Up program, and building a thriving community of more than 10,000 members. Under her leadership, NOW has been recognized for its impact on accessibility and inclusion, earning accolades like DEI Initiative of the Year in 2025. Kat, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction.
Kat, again, none of us do bachelor's of marketing, bachelor's or master's in event tech or events industry. So walk us through your career journey. What brought you into this events industry that we all are extremely proud of?
Well, you say that. It's quite funny. I do actually have a degree in marketing and events management. So,
wow.
In a bit of a roundabout way, because back when I was 18, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I think like most 18-year-olds, I just enjoyed going out, having a good time. I started studying law, but unfortunately it didn't last very long. I didn't enjoy it. I knew very quickly it wasn't for me. And at the time I was living in Paris because I grew up in France. So kind of just take you back a little bit, when I was 18, I moved to Paris, studied law, but really didn't like it very early on. And I just found myself working in and around events. It was kind of my go-to at the time. It was definitely just to be able to go out and not have to buy the tickets and have a good time. And I just kind of fell into this space that I had no idea existed. And then realised I could study it at university. So I did go get a degree in events management and marketing. Really pleased that I did study both. I always thought I'd want to work in events, but now here I am working in marketing.
Nice. I have done, over 50 of these podcasts up until now. You're the second person I know who has a degree in something related to events. What do they teach in that degree? Like,
God.
Like just high level, what's that subject like?
Not enough. Well, this was back over 10 years ago. So I do believe that the courses have evolved a lot. But I think when I was studying, it was probably more the beginning of these kind of courses. So unfortunately, I learned a lot of theory, a lot of research, a lot of very long papers on things that seemed a little bit washy, let's say. I don't think I really learnt much about events, but I am very grateful that I learned a lot in my degree. I learned Spanish. I got the chance to go and live in the United States. I worked at Disney World. I got to travel. I did a year in Spain, so I learned Spanish. So I did learn a lot of skills like how to work in a team, time management. I remember getting my first diary, and I just can't believe how I ever survived without. So I definitely remember learning things in and around it, but I definitely learned everything about events by just getting stuck in. I volunteered at loads of festivals, put my hand up, just said yes, did loads of sporting events, festivals, conferences. I mean, I really just tried to try as much as I could, especially early doors.
Okay, let's start with both of those things. Like, what was the very first event where you felt that you were the one managing it entirely? Just tell us a bit more on that one. And then, let's just come to your, current role. You're, of course, managing director at Electric Cat. Tell us a bit more about what kind of events you plan over there for your customers.
Yeah, well, I guess I've done such a wide variety. I would definitely say I'm the opposite of someone who finds their craft, hones their craft, and becomes a real expert in one thing. I sound probably the opposite. I have loads and loads of transferable skills. I've tried to do as many different kind of events as I could. And of course, working on events of all different sizes and shapes. So it's very different to say position in a director level on the Olympics would be very different to saying, running a small team in a little local event. So I wouldn't say that I've ever been super, super high level in really large scale events, but I've been very fortunate to have worked, for instance, I was project manager for Microsoft, consulting to them over 7 months. I have worked on the Olympics, but more in the capacity of a sponsorship program, so a business program by one of the top sponsors who were actually working on all the tech. So it's really fell into this sort of tech niche, whereas I definitely wouldn't have seen myself going that way. But having worked for Microsoft, and then Atos was the client I was involved with there. So they're the tech integrator. So they work with Omega and other suppliers and kind of plug in all the tech and get that to broadcast, I think, is what they did. So yeah, it's been definitely a lot of different types of roles.
And what made you start Electrocat?
Well, I guess during COVID, so this was sort of pre-COVID. Even when I was at uni, I was already working in events because I already had a foot in the door in the industry. So the degree was more just to kind of validate the and go alongside the on-site learning. So I actually graduated in 2019. So it was very unfortunate because, as you, I'm sure know, in 2020, we all had to sort of stop working in events. So it was very short lived, but luckily I was doing a lot of freelancing already. So that was when I really shifted towards marketing because there wasn't any event work. And actually, I had loads of really amazing clients and a great network through Nowie, through the freelancing that I've been doing, and just saw a real gap in the market when it comes to B2B marketing. I mean, I can't speak for the US, but in the UK, currently there aren't many people doing what we're doing. And the fact that we all come from the events industry is such a unique perspective to most PR agencies that just it takes half the time to explain to them what you actually do and then how the industry works. And then by that point, it's already quite a big waste of resource. So that's kind of how Electric Cat came about. It's all happened very organically. It's almost been like a little bit of an extension to my freelancing. In the first year, I mean, we took 6 months to really figure out who we were. The following 6 months were literally sort of going to market. And then the second year was probably just refining our offering, our messaging. And we're now 2.5. So it's all happened very quickly. But we've been so amazingly grateful to work with some amazing clients so early on and just have their trust. But because we understand the industry, I think it's made it a lot easier for our clients to see that we just get it.
Yeah, makes sense. See, one thing that I find challenging in the industry, purely from a marketing perspective, is just how do you differentiate yourself? Because in the end, everyone kind of looks the same, sounds the same. So how do you stand out in this crowded industry?
Oh, I love that question because it's such a pertinent and relevant question. I think especially in the landscape that we are currently in, it's so important to be standing out from your competitors and really leaning into what it is that makes you, what your USPs are, what value you bring, what experience, what knowledge, and how that sets you apart from your competitors. And I think, especially in event tech, there are lots of blue brands. It's very, I mean, it's tough. There's not a million colors. Like, I do understand we don't have the millions of options here, but equally, I think to maybe outside of the industry, I love Monzo. They're probably one of the biggest inspirations that I have for Electric Cat. Is I've gone and I've studied their tone of voice. I've looked at their brand guidelines. It's all on their website. You can go and check it out. It's really inspiring. And I think sometimes taking inspiration from someone, a business or a company or a person or something that isn't directly your competitor, if you have a very tunnel vision, you end up just recreating more of the same. And I think we sometimes can lose sight of the bigger picture if we're too busy looking to one side, being a bit more focused on that bigger picture. And I love taking examples from other countries or other industries to really use that as inspiration and just be bold, doing something different, not being afraid. I recently just went to Cannes Lions, the event that takes place in the south of France, and listened to a talk by the CMO of Duolingo. And that's another incredible household brand that's really, really inspiring to me, who do things a bit different. They're not afraid to, they killed the owl. I mean, they murdered the owl and then they brought it back for a resurrection. So it's just having fun and just being a bit more lighthearted.
I agree. And again, see, at least within our case, we often get challenged purely, from a feature set perspective, because, anytime you come up with a feature, 3 months later, everyone also have the same feature. So, within our own company, we kind of try to figure it out. Okay, how do you stand out? And then in the end, again, what has worked for us is just the trust factor you can build with your customers. But just again, what's the most unconventional marketing move you have ever seen an event supplier agency pull off that has worked?
I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not thinking of loads. It's I'm not. That sounds really tough. It's really tough. I can't think to a really great example.
I'll tell you something that has happened with me just yesterday, and I don't know if that works or not, but and literally because it happened with me yesterday, I went on Google just trying to figure it out what's happening. But I'll tell you what happened yesterday. I get an email that someone has sent me $0.02 via PayPal. So I got an email saying that, oh, we have just sent you $0.02 on your PayPal account because, and again, because we want you to know that how much we care about, every 2 cents, in what happens in this particular space. That made me look into that company. I went there, I looked into that particular company. I'm not going to say who that company is. And then I went on LinkedIn and everyone was talking about the $0.02. And I was like, and then like there are hundreds and hundreds of prospects talking about it, and in a very nice way, in a very pleasant way, because it was a surprise. And it's only $0.02. A lot of times people give you iPods just to get into a demo. That's like $250.
Yeah,
Not
high
many
acquisition cost.
yeah, and not many people talk about it. Yet here, someone has sent $0.02. A lot of people were talking about it. And again, I just find it, it's a risky thing. It could have gone either way, but just something I felt was like a genius, just because it ended up in a positive way. But I'm not sure if there's a science behind these unconventional things that sometimes some of these companies do.
There was one thing that I did listen to on a podcast. It's not specific to event tech, but it was in the tech space. And I think quite often the brands, especially in the B2B space, when it comes to event suppliers, I mean, we say this on our website, it's not always sexy. Like the products it's not eye candy, it's not donuts, it's not makeup, it's not clothes, it's not a holiday destination with the sun and the sea. It's a utility. It's something that has a function. So it is hard and it is a challenge, but it's just really important, I think, to just know your audience. And this is what this tech company had done really well, is that they were selling to very technical, I'm just going to say it, they're nerdy people. And where do they hang out? They hang out on Reddit, and they were using memes, and they use a lot of memes on Facebook and Instagram, which don't traditionally get spoken about much when it comes to B2B. And I just thought that was really, really cool. And I noticed that Reddit did have a pop-up at Cannes Lions this year, and just love to think of a way that we could use that for one of our clients. So that's maybe something to consider. It's just thinking a little bit outside the box, isn't it?
Sure. And of all the events you have attended, which one are the top three? Like which top three events that you typically like to attend, want to attend, like not typically?
Like B2B, or as an attendee, it could be just
as an attendee, which like in the event tech world, what are the events that one should not miss as an attendee?
Well, I'm a bit biased, but I'm going to have to say my favorite events are always the NAWI events. We run, as I mentioned earlier, I run the Network of Women events. So we're a community, we're a non-profit, we're a social enterprise. So it means that everything we do goes straight into supporting our community and our members. We have a mentorship program. And I think that just has to be my favorite, because it's kind of when it all comes to life, and we're all women who work in events. So naturally we're in our natural habitat, when we're at networking events. I absolutely love it. It's so, so nice to see the real outcomes. It's not over-engineered, it's not overcomplicated. We do usual we go for a lovely dinner, we find lovely venues. We've done fun ones as well, like a run club. We've done a scavenger hunt around Manchester, sending the people around looking for specific statues and a list of things together. And just for me to know that event has been the catalyst for someone getting a job, or a supplier, meeting a new agency who's going to generate some great business for them. To know that someone who maybe is a mum and a new mum, and they're struggling to adapt, and they've met another mum and they've had a connection, or just sometimes it's the really small, someone has stepped out of their comfort zone that day and they hate networking, and they've made the effort, they've got themselves there, they've gone around, they've spoken to people, and they leave feeling proud and that they've taken something from it. So I mean, I could go on and on, but to me, those are the kind of events that are really special.
And tell me a bit more about that. Like, so are these events just a 3-hour dinner events, or are these like, I don't know, 1 day, 2 day, where, you guys are all going through some content, there's a speaker, there's someone who's sharing, kind of doing a workshop?
So it depends. Yeah, we kind of activate at industry events. So we sometimes will have a stand or we'll have a stage, like event production show at Excel. We take over one of their stages, so we get to curate all the panels. And then we do networking there as well. At Event Tech Live, we did a brunch. So we went to the lovely Ivy and got loads of wonderful women together at 8 o'clock before the show started. So it's nice. It's non-alcohol related. So it does vary. We've never done a whole conference, but watch this space. Maybe soon. Who knows? It's up here in my mind, but when it will see the light of day, I'm not too sure. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about, let's, again, I know that you're associated one way or the other with Event Tech conference, Event Tech Live conference. And I always ask this question, what's your take on swags? So again, we as exhibitors were there. I know we are one of the, 70 or 100 suppliers out there. We all get pressure that we have to take, some fancy swag with us. Like you as an attendee, just put yourself as in attendee's shoe. Do you like swags? Do you think that one should get rid of swags? And if you like swags, what kind of swags impress an attendee or actually
For
do
me, I try really, really hard not to take things I don't need. So tote bags, I don't take tote bags because otherwise I'd have 1,500. I don't take pens, same. I've got pens at home. I don't need another pen. Notebooks, I don't write things down. So I'm a bit of a difficult swag user. Swag that I have taken, for instance, a phone holder that goes on my desk. I can put my phone in. Fantastic. That is brilliant. Like, I don't know, Loop earplugs, branded Loop. I would wear those in a busy, in a loud event. I think I got given a tile recently. That is great. I mean, obviously these are sometimes a little bit higher price items. It's not really what you'd be giving everyone who's passing by. But I'm always quite conscious of the environment. I think events are so wasteful as they are.
Yeah.
The one thing I really would implore from exhibitors is have a plan for if you don't give away those 5,000 notepads, what is the plan? If you've all flown into an event, it's out of town, how are you getting rid of that? And if it's just going in the bin, just be very, very mindful of not taking too much. So I think just something that's really aligned with your brand or one bigger item that you could do more of a lead gen. For instance, we did some great work with Silent Seminars who have the headsets. They were doing a partnership with Translatable. So it just, oh, sorry, I got that wrong. Can I say that again? They weren't doing a partner with.
Yeah. Right.
So for instance, Silent Seminars were doing a partnership with Interprify. So they do the live interpretation. So we thought it'd be really fun to do a game where people had to guess the language. And then at the end, the winner got a Bose headset noise cancelling. So it tied in really nicely with the offering of their brand. It meant they generated a bunch of leads. It meant that they weren't having to spend, I mean, I've got 700 Electric Cat highlighters in my cupboard because someone once said that we look like highlighters because we were in bright neon yellow. We thought it was hilarious. But unfortunately, we probably only gave away about 10 because people probably didn't want to take them. So they thought, oh, it's probably for, those big clients. Only the big clients get a highlighter. So it's, I think, just being quite mindful. And actually things like stickers is cheap, easy, small. People are more likely to use it. Or we did a newspaper where we really put some really fun elements and little storytelling, and it's just paper. So it's easy to transport, easy to give out. And people have bumped into me and said, I've still got your newspaper on my desk from last year.
One of the things that a lot of other event professionals, at least, were sharing in this podcast is this thing where people are signing up for these events pretty late. Like they're not making the decision all the way up until the last week or the last month, etc. Are you seeing that trend within your customer base as well, where maybe, 4 weeks before, they haven't filled up the seats that they would like to have filled up by then? And just some ways to avoid it. Like how can we have people sign up early than later?
Yeah, we don't work with loads, so I wouldn't be able to speak for certain because lots of our clients, the majority are suppliers. So for them, they're supplying into the events rather than hosting them themselves. But I do think it's a trend that we've been seeing across B2C events, B2B. I follow a couple of people that do a lot of B2B ticket sales. So that's one thing we don't ever do, but I love to kind of keep an eye on what's happening in the B2C because there's always lots of interesting crossover. And I just think people's time since COVID has become really precious, which is a great thing. I think people are being a lot more allowing of more flexible working and having clearer boundaries, which is, I think, some great outcomes from COVID. But I do think it's definitely impacting on events, and that people, you have to really demonstrate great value. And there's someone called Elle from the Ticket Crowd. I love following her content because she, I think, explains it really, really well. And this does apply to suppliers or anyone who's selling anything. Ultimately, is, I think this is such a key takeaway, that you're not selling the service. It's not the number of stages. It's not the functionalities of the app can do this, and you can also integrate. What you're selling is the value. You're selling saving time, less stress, no pressure, knowing that everything's in hand, working with a trusted supplier or an event that you're going to have a great time, and it's transporting you to. It's that feeling. It's the emotional. So I think just being more connected and deepening the reasons behind trying to engage with your audience, whether that's in B2B or B2C. So yeah.
I see that you're also quite a celebrity on LinkedIn as well. So tell us a bit, like, what works best on LinkedIn for event marketers today? What are some of the ways to really, get that engagement out on LinkedIn? Because it's also a very competitive space, literally, for everyone nowadays.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's something that I started doing 6 years ago, where I just had a bit of a moment where I thought, I'm scrolling so much on Instagram, it's not bringing anything into my life. And I had a real breakthrough moment where I thought, I'm going to swap LinkedIn, where Instagram was, on my phone, and put Instagram, just bury it in my other apps.
Mm-hmm.
And it drastically shifted. I really set myself that goal. At first, I didn't know what was posting. I didn't know what I was doing. Luckily, at that point, no one was following me. So no one remembers. No one saw it because I had no followers. So it was great. I learned during that time when I was young. I was a student, just fresh out of uni. I thought, no one really cares. So I just kind of tested the waters. And I think it's only with time that you can find your style, find your tone of voice, whether you're a brand, a company, a person, an organization, a nonprofit. I think it's all very similar. Being authentic. There's nothing I can say that I'm sure people haven't seen in a video. It's just finding what works for you, being consistent with it, understanding your audience, being really, who am I speaking to? If you're a graphic designer and all day long you put out graphic design tutorials if you're trying to sell into event agencies, to get them to hire you for graphics for their shows, if you're putting out content that speaks about how to graphic design, it's not going to land with those agencies. They don't care. They don't want to become graphic designers. So on the contrary, maybe it would be, how do you engage with those agencies? So really just thinking about the audience, who it is you're trying to speak to, being consistent. Obviously, there's so many tips and tricks around creating a good post. Video works really, really well. I mean, most people hate it, let's face it. No one really loves filming themselves and then having to edit it. But that works really, really well. And then the last thing I would say is being authentic and vulnerable. People connect with vulnerability. It's a psychological scientific thing, but it works. People are more likely to trust someone who they know isn't perfect. And it kind of goes back to our animal instinct. I heard it in a podcast. It must be true. But we tend to connect more with people who are vulnerable. And I think this big shift that we've seen since TikTok becoming a big platform is that, I mean, I'm sure everyone in the audience would have at least once recently watched a random video of some random person in a random business telling all about their financials, or some random girl in a different country talking about how she messed up. And people, we're curious. We're also very curious as humans. We want to get that peek behind the curtain. It's all very well seeing a nice, shiny, branded, beautiful website with a happy looking team. But as our animal instinct is that we're always, we're looking out for threats. So we're like, what if it's too perfect? What's going to go wrong? So actually, my content that's doing really well at the moment, I'm really into this concept called radical honesty. And I'm like that with my team. I'm like that in life. It's so liberating to be open and say, I don't know everything. I mess loads of things up. For every talk I am successful in, there are 5 I applied for that I never heard from them. For every job I got, there are 100 I applied for that I never got. For every client we announced, there are 3 that we didn't announce because we never got them. So I just think, be a bit bold and be a bit vulnerable, and be okay with showing that behind the scenes, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, that's very well said. And you mentioned how you, again, you kind of swapped Instagram with LinkedIn, and I do get it, but just purely from an event tech industry perspective, do you think that event professionals don't use Instagram for business purpose at all, or do you think there's value of someone within our industry, I don't know, doing those posts on Instagram too, not just on LinkedIn?
I would argue whatever you're doing, if it's working for you, then just do that. I've rarely seen anyone say we've had loads of inbound leads through Instagram. We've seen great ROI from an ad that we've run on Instagram. I just think it's almost like that headspace. When I'm on Instagram, I try not to follow events. I follow them on LinkedIn. I get that in my inbox. I see them.
Makes sense.
I've almost, I need a little detox space. I need to just see happy dogs, happy cats falling over. I just want to see, beachy places. I want to see people on holiday. That's what I want to see on Instagram, my friends. Yeah. I almost am quite protective of that one platform that is not, because I have a TikTok, but it's more of a business one. So the question I get asked more frequently is, should we be on TikTok? Mm-hmm. I'd love to give the example of Premier Events. They're an agency, full service here based in the UK. And Ben, their founder, has doubled down on LinkedIn, on TikTok. So it comes unnatural saying it out loud. And we did a little feature. We just saw him at an event and I said, I follow you on TikTok. And I always give you as an example of, what's right. There's no right or wrong in marketing. It's not black or white. I can't say this will work this way, but if you lean into it and you do something a bit bold and a bit different, because they are navigating NDAs, so it's very tricky to talk about their biggest clients. So how do they have a presence without talking about that? What are they talking about? So they just show all the behind the scenes. Ben also does loads of videos around admitting to his failures, and it has enabled them to scale massively. They're a very, very sizable company now, considering where they were before. And it's just, that to me is a really good testament to, there's no right or wrong, do what works for you. But generally Instagram is probably not where people, it might be your audience, but they're not in the headspace to buy. They're in the headspace to just scroll mindlessly.
Yeah. Perfect. Just as an attendee, I'm just searching, when it comes to you signing up for events, how much that website matters, how much the registration form, just length matters, if they're just asking for name and email address, or they're asking for a lot more details so they can give you a much more personalized experience. So just what's your take on that one?
Tough. I do think that a seamless, I'm a marketeer. I'm not going to say that it doesn't matter. I genuinely believe that the perception, like your brand identity is what sets you apart, is what makes you as a business. So if I see marketing that's a bit messy, like buttons don't work, blurry logos, we've all been trying and do something on a mobile phone and it fails, and it's so frustrating. You think you've registered, you can't remember if you have, what email was it, and it is confusing. We're very busy. Everyone's got a lot going on in their mind, in their inbox. And I sometimes find as well that the questions that they ask, because when you ask that question, I'm thinking, is that me as an attendee? Is that me when I'm going to represent Nowie? Is it me when I'm trying to learn as an attendee? Is it me when I'm trying to do business development as an attendee? So am I going to sell? So it does really depend, but I think it's so hard. As marketers, we always want to quantify everything. We want to know everything: acquisition, value, like behavior. And I think sometimes in trying so hard to do that, we almost lose ourselves a little bit. And then if you become too reliant on that data, I am always in two minds about data. Nothing worse than seeing direct as you're on Google Analytics, like direct. Well, great. Well, what does that mean? Like, I don't know what that means. If it says, it might not say Instagram, but someone might have seen it on Instagram, gone and typed in electric cat, but someone might have shared a UTM in a WhatsApp group that blows up, but actually the UTM doesn't mean that one ad did really well. It means that someone else. So I have these very long internal conversations, but ultimately I do think that it's tough because lots of people in events will wear different hats. And so sometimes, say, oh, what budget are you? And I'm always in two minds about, when you see those, on average, our attendees have a budget of $1 million to $5 million per annum. And that's 59% of our attendees. And I'm like, I bet money it's an estimate anyway, really, isn't it? I think it's just trying to really get that value across. But I'm always a bit of pinch of salt with that.
I agree. Tell me a bit, as an attendee, when you are going on events, a lot of people go to events either for networking or to go ahead and, learn from the content that's being shared, and or lead generation. Just which is also networking if you're as an attendee. More and more, at least I get to see on LinkedIn that, oh, by the way, events are more for networking, even though for me personally as an attendee, I go there more for just purely from a learning purpose, right? But what's your take on that? Which one should get a bit more priority? What are you seeing with some of the events that you are attending?
It depends on the event, but I think that it's sometimes good when you have a team is understanding different people's strengths.
Yeah.
And so recently, I'll use the Cannes example. We went to Cannes Lions, which is, for maybe someone who isn't familiar, it's one of the biggest sort of creative industry events for marketers, advertisers, and they also have the Lions Awards. So it's a lot of creators, it's a lot of creative directors and senior leaders within the marketing and advertising space. And they do a whole conference, and then around it, there's loads of fringe events. So Meta will be there, YouTube, Pinterest, all these other fun brands and all sorts of fun stuff. So there were 3 of us in attendance, and we kind of just we divided and conquered. So personally, I'm the face of the brand. I love networking. I love people. I get my energy from bouncing off of people. I love making new connections. That's me in my natural habitat. And Hattie in our team is perhaps less so that way, but she does so much of our client work. She is across lots of our copywriting, our PR. So for her to go and get inspired by those sessions made a lot of sense. Then she came back, she wrote a blog about it. She wrote we have a LinkedIn newsletter feature. She's done some LinkedIn posts. She's doing reporting back to the team and some of the key learnings and how we can implement that with our clients. So I think it's about leaning into different people's strengths. And I think the same goes if you're exhibiting. Right. Is knowing that there are some people that are organized and they will be there in the morning and they'll make sure the kit is set up, and they are the people that are doing the planning, and they might not be that public facing. So I think it's unrealistic to expect that a team would all go and do one thing. Everyone's different, and just leaning into what makes that team person, what their strengths are, and then just kind of leaning on that, really.
I think that's very well said. I agree. I think double down on the strengths, and then everyone. Perfect. So what's one action you would recommend listeners take this week to make their B2B marketing more authentic or effective?
Oh, toss between 2, but we haven't really kind of touched on the being vulnerable. I'd say if I could have 2, please.
Yeah, right.
I would say the first should be challenge yourself to be vulnerable. Do something you wouldn't normally do. If you're a parent and you're having a really tough morning because your kids are just, I hear they're very hard work. So, just be open about that on LinkedIn. Say, or with your team, and just say, or just in general, put yourself out of your comfort zone by being a bit vulnerable, maybe admitting to something that you wouldn't normally, and watch that really, the ripple effect of that. And then the second, we haven't spoken about it, but it's something that we've got this whole way without mentioning AI. So far so good. But I would say that the way PR is playing into AI is really interesting. And if you're not looking into this, you really, 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 another key takeaway, go and check out how AI and PR are working together, and how those new search models and the crawling is taking place, and where, and now Google is doing it, people using ChatGPT instead of Google. So no longer gone are the days where you can just put all of your budget in SEO, get all the inbound leads, and then sort of put your feet up and relax for the rest of the day. I would say really, and this is probably another interesting insight that maybe not everyone is really leveraging in their best way, lean on the team members. As the CEO and founder, great, of course, you are going to be in the limelight a lot. The way you can build trust, and real authentic trust, is through, because your team is your people aren't dealing with you, the CEO, when they sign up with vFairs. They're not going to be directly working with you. So ultimately, who are they going to be working with? Is it the head of client services or account management, however you sort of define those roles? Or do you have someone in sustainability? They can talk about that side. Do you have a technical person who can really go in and have those technical conversations? You can do thought leadership. So not only should the messaging come from one person or one channel, whether that's your company LinkedIn or the founder or CEO, but really actually spreading the load will help those search engines to now perceive you as a more trusted brand, and PR plays massively into that.
Kat, you were right. We didn't discuss AI so far, and the next few minutes are going to be about AI. So just walk us through, like, what are some of the AI tools that you're actually using and they're actually working for you? Because I think what we all are facing nowadays is a lot of our LinkedIn feed is just filled up with AI. Everyone comes up with this LinkedIn post. Oh, by the way, I have come up with this new thing, and it has helped me grow my followers by this much, or customer count by this much, and so forth. If you will comment X on the comments, I'll give you this magic secret sauce. And when you look at that secret sauce, really it works for you. But what are some of the things that you are using that at least have given you or your team a bit of productivity in some sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say as users, we're probably a little bit behind the curve, if I'm completely honest. But I would say the way we're considering it when we're doing our marketing is probably a bit ahead of the curve. So I say only really use ChatGPT, AI, Note Taker, and a couple of ways within our project management and automation. But the main one that I would say with ChatGPT is we probably don't use it in a way someone is imagining, oh, marketing agency just going in, using it for images, using it for copy, passing it along to the client. I'd say we have some quite good ways of setting it all up. So for us, different clients will have different threads, and we're not really dealing with largely, data and really sensitive information. For us, it's more around content pillars and strategy and topics, themes, ideas. But the way we set up the channels is quite intentional. So we have it so that agent will then learn about that client. So it's more of a time saver. I would say there are some unusual ways I've used it that are really, really handy. Of course, I'm not going to get loads that come to mind right now, but for instance, one really handy one, which is a great tip for anyone who's listening and exhibits at B2B events, is, for instance, downloading the exhibitor list and saying, who are if you're looking for event, I don't know, registration companies, who are the registration companies? You can say, we supply this product, tell me all the hotels that might, and then you can use it in some quite smart ways like that, or even just like data analysis. We use it, for instance, with our timesheets. It's quite easy to just download a large document and say, for instance, I downloaded all of our customer feedback from Electric Cat, all of our clients give us feedback. So I always said, give me some key insights that I can put in a deck to complete off my case studies, instead of just putting, this was the outcome. I could go 9.3% would recommend it, so it gives some insights into big data, which is quite good, or venue finding. Like, there's lots of little ways that we use it, which ultimately just save time.
Yeah, and event planners, like, their job for most of the time has been just wasted in this research activity. Again, find a good venue or find a good place or do this analysis, etc. And I think, as you said, there's a lot of time, bits and pieces of time being saved in each one of those activities. What I haven't seen so far,
bookkeeping,
bookkeeping,
just the way that reconciling account, heaven forbid, when I've had to reconcile accounts back in the day, oh my god, I barely can manage with AI. And with it's so smart the way it just pulls information, it learns, it remembers for next time I've got paid a certain supplier, it will remember that, it will put it under the same budget line. And it is definitely the automations that people probably don't even realize are AI are more impactful than people trying to find the new way to create the coolest graphics, which I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of the copy and graphics. And
see, events has always been about people, but within the events industry, is there a role that you feel is going to get impacted sooner than later because of AI? In pure tech industry, we are already seeing that AI is able to kind of do the programming piece of software developers. Again, they're being impacted in a certain way. With ChatGPT coming up with at least the basic images, etc., that you can post on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., we all can now go ahead and generate some of those. But yeah,
I just see it that it's the low. Currently, it's so hard to say how it's going to be in a couple of years, but right now, I would say it probably helps people save 5% of their previous workforce. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just kind of
Yeah, 5
rough
to 15.
estimate.
I agree. Yeah, I think
So
that's
maybe a low-level marketer, a data, someone who manages data, someone who maybe like a bookkeeper, but
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's already. And I think there's a difference between using ChatGPT and just kind of winging it, and then, for instance, really working with maybe a consultant or an agency, or really learning, sitting, educating yourself, and then going and building a complex, I think ChatGPT is great, but it's also limited. If we want to really, we were just working on a PR piece for one of our clients, and he was just saying that they worked with an agency, they've built Python code that then it automates some of their workflow processes that previously, like, not anyone can just wake up and go and build that in ChatGPT. That is a slightly more complex solution. So it ultimately needs someone to be the person piloting the tech. So I don't believe that there's necessarily going to be loads of people that will be out of work, but perhaps different skills and upskilling in different areas.
Yep. Yep. Someone said, who I was interviewing on the podcast, is that you can think of, again, a lot of these AI tools within the events industry as such as an intern or a fresh grad that you have hired that still requires a lot of supervision. So, they can save you time, but someone still needs to really own it, manage it, execute it, as compared to someone like, there's no magic wand up until now, at least,
Yeah.
that can give you that 50 to 100% productivity, but that 5 to 15% that a typical intern or fresh grad will give you, you might be able to get it from some of these tools. Kat, it has been amazing talking to you. For all of our listeners, if they want to learn a bit more about you, want to connect with you, and the kind of work you do, where can they best reach you at? I'm assuming it's LinkedIn or not on Instagram, but
Yeah. I was thinking in my head, should I joke and be like, go follow me on TikTok? No, definitely go check out my LinkedIn, Electric Cat. And if you are a woman working events, more so on the UK, sort of in the UK, then you can go check out Nowie as well. Whilst we're not really outside of the UK yet, who knows, maybe in the future. But yeah, please drop me a message. And if anyone has any questions or would like to chat about anything B2B marketing, don't hesitate, drop me a line.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Again, if you want to listen to any of the other podcasts, you can just go to Epic Events on App Store or Google Play Store to download some of the other podcasts as well. Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.